Welcome back everyone. In today's short video, we will talk about the difference between how many and how much when we use questions. But before we do that, we need to look at the different types of nouns we have in the English language. There are two types of nouns in English. We have non-count and count. So many of you are familiar with count nouns. Count nouns usually have an S ending, right? So for example, I have 2 books. I have 3 cats. I have 4 classes, right? All of these will take an S ending to show, hey, this is not singular, it is plural. We also know there are irregular nouns, right? So you have 1 person, 2 people. You have 1 child, 2 children. Or 1 man, 30 men. Or 2 women, or 1 woman, right? So there are singular and plural irregular nouns, but usually regular nouns will have an S ending. On this side, it's tricky. There's a whole group, a category of non-count nouns. There's a lot on my board here that we will review, but this isn't everything. But I think these are some important non-count nouns that you should know. One other one I just remembered because of my ring is jewelry. Jewelry is also a non-count noun. What does non-count mean? This means that the nouns will never have an S ending sound. So for example, jewelry, I do not say, I have many jewelries. No, I have a lot of jewelry, okay? So first we will talk about some non-count nouns and how to change them into countable nouns. And then we will do a little practice with how many and how much, okay? So I have different categories here for you. Liquids, abstract ideas, small items, food, and activities. So when we talk about liquids, for example, blood or water, coffee, tea, juice, or even gasoline for your car, we cannot count water. You cannot count water, but you can count, for example, a bottle of water. I have 5 bottles of water, right? But you cannot count the liquid. So if I want to say, take my example of water or coffee or tea, if I want to make it countable, I would say, oh, I have maybe 3 bottles of water, coffee, tea, right? I have 3 bottles of, and your liquid, or 3 cups of, right? I can count a bottle or a cup, that's not a problem, but I cannot count the liquid inside, okay? Now, another category is called abstract ideas. What does that mean? Abstract ideas are what we have in our minds. We cannot see, feel them. For example, happiness. You cannot see happiness. It's something that you feel inside, right? So some abstract ideas that are very common are advice, information, help, patience, knowledge, and fun. Okay? So with these, let's take advice for example. Many of my students ask me for advice on how to improve their English. If you want to change the word advice into a countable noun, you could say, for example, pieces of advice. Right? Just as an example, there are so many countable nouns. This is usually not an issue for my students. It's this group, the non-count nouns, that are a little strange, okay? Now, what about small items? Rice, salt, sugar, pepper, flour, even hair. If I ask you, oh, would you like some sugar in your coffee? You cannot tell me, oh, yes, Caroline, I would like 100 pieces of of sugar. It's how can you count that? It's so small. They're very, very tiny. Instead, you can ask for maybe in terms of sugar for your coffee, I would like 2 spoonfuls of sugar. This I can count. I can count a spoon, 1, 2. Okay, no problem. Usually when we cook or you bake, if you look at the instructions, they usually say 1 tablespoon of salt or 1 teaspoon of pepper, right? Look for those items next time you try to look for a new recipe when you're cooking because they give you specific instructions, right? Because we cannot count just sugar, salt, right? It has to be measured. All right. Now, food. Oh, we love food. So, cheese, bread, meat, beef, poultry. Poultry is chicken. Popcorn. Oh, I love popcorn. I love going to the movies. Okay, let's look at the example with bread. So you cannot count bread. I know that's very weird because you say, wait, this is 1, 2. That is called a loaf. A loaf of bread. A loaf of bread. A loaf of bread is usually like this. It's like it's a one whole piece of bread. If you have 2, remember this F in loaf will change to VES, right? So you can say I have 2 loaves of bread. I went to the bakery and I bought 2 loaves of bread. But I don't want the whole bread. Maybe I just want a piece. We usually say a slice. A slice. So for example, let's say 3 slices of bread. There we go. Slice. Think of it like a piece. For example, a slice of cake, a slice of pizza, right? Just a part of it, okay? Now over here, if we talk about activities, like for example, homework, work, soccer, tennis, basketball, baseball, any sports, chess, singing, dancing, these are all activities that you do. This one, homework, is one that my students often have problems with. So let's take a look here. When we talk about homework, you cannot say, oh, I have many homeworks. Non-count nouns, you will never add the S. So homework, what you can say is, oh, homework assignments. Homework assignments. Now that is plural. Now that becomes a countable noun, right? Another idea that we did not talk about here is also money. Money. Well, Caroline, I can count money. No, you can count dollar bills, you can count coins, but you cannot count money. You will never say, oh, I have many monies, right? Non-count noun, so you will not add an S to this ending. So now let's talk about the questions. How do we use how many and how much? How many is used for countable nouns. So how many something do you have? Can you give me an example of a countable noun? Maybe how many friends do you have? How many pets? Dogs, cats, animals. How many children do you have? How many jobs do you have? Some of my students have many jobs. So when we talk about these countable nouns, sometimes you can use these key phrases. They're called quantifying phrases to talk about these nouns. So if you say, how many friends do you have? How many friends do you have? I can say, I have I can say I have several friends, meaning a lot. You can use this for any countable noun. So you could say I have several friends. I have a few friends, meaning not too many, right? Or you could say I have many friends, right? When you respond, before your countable noun, you can say I have many friends, I have several friends, or I have a few friends, okay? On this side, when we talk about non-countable nouns, let's take a look here. We're going to use the word how much in the question. How much something do you want? So let's say we are drinking coffee together. You and I are drinking coffee together. And I drink my coffee and, oh, it is very strong. I need maybe some sugar, some cream. And you ask me, how much sugar do you want? How much creamer do you want, right? That's liquid, right? Or milk. What are some other examples of non-countable nouns? I ask my students, how much homework do you want tonight? Or how much time? Time is also a non-countable noun. Time. How much time do you want for this exam? Or how much money? Ooh, money do you want? Maybe a lot. So with non-countable nouns, we use the word much in front. So some examples, when we respond, let's say someone asks me, how much money do you want? There's some choices here. We could say, I want, let's say we're gonna use the non-countable noun money. So I could say, I want a little. Not too much, a little. Or I want much, maybe so much. So much. Sometimes my students say, oh, Caroline, I have so much homework. I don't have much time. Okay, so listen, we use the word much in front of our non-countable nouns, right? I know what you're thinking. This is too much. When we talk about countable nouns, Caroline, you are saying I can put many, several, or a few in front of my countable nouns. And when we talk about non-countable nouns, I can use the word much or a little. For example, I want to cut a little bit of my hair. Or I just want a little sugar in my coffee. Or, oh, I have so much free time this weekend. I cannot wait to sleep. Okay, but what about both? Is there a way that we can use these quantifiers for both count and non-count? The answer is yes. So let's take an example. I could say a lot of, a plenty of, and some. Okay. All three of these phrases can be used for count and non-count. So for example, I have a lot of clothes. Okay. I have a lot of homework. I have a lot of time. I have a lot of problems, car problems. I have a lot of shoes. I have a lot of books and movies, right? Plenty of. Oh, I have plenty of friends. I have plenty of pencils in my bag. I have plenty of masks, right? We need masks during the coronavirus. Non-count nouns. I have plenty of jewelry. I don't need more. I have plenty of hair. I have plenty of milk. I don't need any more at the store, right? Or some. I have some books I can give you. Or I have some homework we can work together on. Or I have some exams next week, so I need to study. Or I have some meat. I have some extra meat and poultry Would you like any? So these I can use for both. But the important part of this lesson is I want you to make sure you have a good understanding of how to use how many and how much, because you will often hear these questions when you enter a store. How much is the TV over there? How much? How much does it cost? Right? Oh, okay. How many classes are you taking? How many job applications have you submitted, right? So we have these used in conversations. We use these in conversations all the time. So next time you go shopping, I want you to practice using these, okay? Great job, everyone. And if you have any questions, write them in the comments below and practice with me. Try to ask me some questions using how many and how much. Keep up the great work, and I will see you soon. Happy studying. Bye.